I am Jeff Luther, and the host of your new favorite podcast, the Inspector Alliance. This is where we'll peel back the curtain and get behind successful service industry businesses to see just what makes them tick. We're going to focus around the home inspection business. That's what I've built. I've owned it for a little over 20 years now. But we'll also include other service businesses that might parallel ours so we can learn more. And the more we know, the better off we are, right?
And we're back with another great episode of the Inspector Alliance. And this episode just kind of fell into my lap. It's something that happened to me last week, or week before last, and I wanted to chat about it. And I think it was helpful for me. It was just kind of an epiphany or a realization, and I think it's going to be helpful for a lot of those service business out there that might be struggling from something that I was struggling with in my business. And we've talked about in the past, I know I've mentioned finding a mentor or maybe finding a peer group or a mentors group. There's all sorts of groups out there. Even you can even have just a mastermind of folks that are in your specific industry, or a mastermind of like businesses in a region. Doesn't even have to be geographically connecting. With the power of Zoom and Microsoft Teams and all the virtual meeting stuff that we can do these days. So finding a mentor group or finding a mastermind group of your peers, I think, is critical. I coach an accelerator group. I'm in EO, and part of EO is we have EO Accelerator. So EO Accelerator is for businesses that are between $250,000 to under $1 million, and they're trying to grow to that $1 million mark. So what EOers will do is volunteer to coach or to mentor through this program. We have accountability groups. We meet monthly. We have quarterly learning days. So I have an accountability group that I meet with monthly. And then also me and the guy that I coach with will offer to do phone calls in between our monthly meeting. So he usually will lead the call, and I'm there more for support. But in this particular instance, we had one of our members that he's trying to grow his organization. He's trying to grow it from within. It's a service-based industry, and he's struggling with promoting from within. He wants to pull that advancement more than he does push. And that's a struggle. It was a struggle for me in my business. I wanted to push people. I wanted to push them to do better. Some people just don't want to. So what he's trying to do is what I did, is create that vacuum to kind of pull people up. We were working through some growth plans with this particular member, and they're looking for ways to get their folks to move up, like I said. So we struggled with this for a long time, and you take your folks that seem to perform the best and you reward them accordingly. That's the traditional business, right? Oh, well, employee A has been here for 5 years. It's his review, and we're going to give him his 3% cost of living. And they're just fine with doing the same thing over and over and kind of just moving up. Small businesses simply can't work that way. The growth is too huge to be, the incremental growth is too big for that to suffice. So you imagine you have 5 employees and you grow a little bit more, and you add one position. So you go from 5 to 6. That's what, a 20% growth. So doing those incremental changes is not sustainable. Imagine also being in front of a group, and for whatever reason, even hopefully you're not in front of a group for a negative reason, but telling them that employee A and employee B do the same job, but employee B makes 3% more than employee A because employee B does it better. Well, how do they do it better? Do they have less complaints? Do they treat people kinder? How do you qualify those things? I'm being sarcastic, but maybe they threaten people, right? Maybe they threaten people to not complain, and that's why they get less complaints. Or maybe they drink alcohol before they go out and do their service, so that way they seem more friendly or kind or amenable. There's all kinds of things. That's not really a good qualifier. So what we were looking for is a way to one, get people to want to move up, Two, to qualify how we could promote people within, qualify how we could pay people more, because ultimately that's what it is, right? People want to earn more, they want a better position, they want more responsibility. So that struggle led us to take a different approach. And there are a number of ways to look at this. I'll kind of walk through them. You could take the approach of what I call the union approach. This is when you have someone that's on your team, they're rewarded simply on their tenure. I say this is the union approach because I had it presented to me one time this exact way. There was a guy, it was in a mastermind group that I was in, there was a guy that was very much pro-union, and we were talking about, it was a home inspection mastermind group, and we were just talking about employees in general. And he said that employees, just by virtue of being with you longer, are more valuable. I was like, yeah, that doesn't really make sense. Just because someone's been with you longer, they're more valuable. He was like, yeah, absolutely. It's just like in the union. If somebody's been with you for 20 years, they're way more valuable than the person that's been with you for 5. Well, I disagree. The person that's been with you for 20 years, maybe they've been there 20 years unhappily. Maybe they're at 20 years and they've gotten to complacency. Maybe they're at 20 years, they've gotten disgruntled. Maybe they hit that 20-year mark and it's burnout. Maybe they hit that 20-year mark and they decide they want to go open their own business. So maybe they hit that 20-year mark and they start taking your customer database. Maybe they hit that 20-year mark and something gets said at a meeting they don't like. So they start to poison the pond as a leader in the organization. Just by virtue of showing up every day for a certain number of years does not, in my opinion, make someone more valuable. And I've heard other arguments too, and this is from the same mastermind group. I heard another argument. There was a company that was in this mastermind group. Think of a company that does everything right. This was that company. They had their business buttoned up. They were actually, the owners of the company were really amazing people personally, and they did everything they were supposed to do. They did everything right. When you look at a business and say, wow, I want my business to run that way, they did it. So it was a company out of Ohio, and they had an inspector. This was way back when. It was one of their top folks, had been with them for, I don't know, like 12 years. And there was a specific issue that came up for this inspector, and it was as a result of this inspector not going into a certain space in the house during an inspection. So they, of course, went out, did the revisit, and you do all your due diligence. You figure out why, what needs to be done. And it came to surface that this inspector said, I've been doing this for 12 years, whatever the number of years was. I've been doing this for 12 years. I usually know what I'm going to find on a house when I show up, and I know where I do and don't need to go. And this time I just happened to be wrong. So his experience led him astray. His experience moved him to complacency. So he got complacent and fell down on the job. So that time he just happened to be wrong. So what do you do? What is a good answer? This is what we had to do. We had to come up with something that was scalable, a measurement that also provided a clear path for growth for our folks. And it had to be performance-based. Just because employee A is, quote, better than employee B does not mean that we can pay them differently if they have the same qualifications. As your company starts to expand and grow and you get more people that you have to manage, this no longer is something that you can have in your organization. Also, what I learned is everyone wants a clear path. I saw it as the company organizer, but I'm the entrepreneurial spirit, right? I see things way different. My vision is much different than everybody else's. I also assume people can read my mind. So I learned that everyone wants a clear path. I was not providing that. People generally, except for the entrepreneur type, people generally want to be led. So what we did, we made ours qualifiable. We created a clear path. We established tiers. And the tiers are based on the number of inspections completed. So we start out that way. You have to do X number of inspections to be able to go to tier 1, X number of inspections to be able to go to tier 2. So they're getting experience along the way. And then there's a minimum bar. So there's no accusation of picking favorites. There's no allowing folks to excel. There's no way that you can say, well, you have to have so many condos or so many homes. You have to do so many houses with a basement, because those change geographically. It was just number of inspections. And then we based it on certain criteria or milestones. So they have to be an ASHI certified inspector as an absolute minimum. They have to have had their 250 fee paid inspections. That's to get to a tier 1 home inspector as a baseline. Then each subsequent milestone is only accomplished when the previous milestones are met. An inspector they can't move from apprentice to tier 2 inspector because they pass all the ICC code certification tests. People that take tests easier, have more time to learn in the evenings, are going to accelerate much quicker. They have to go through all of the steps of tier 1 to get to tier 2. This works for us also because it allows them time to get seasoned in that role, seasoned in the role of home inspector. They need the number of inspections to move on to the next criteria. For example, you don't want a super technically capable inspector that easily passes exams and does the book work to jump straight into resolving customer complaints as part of their company progress. If they've only done 10 inspections but they passed all the tests, you don't want to immediately put them in front of a customer facing situation where people generally are on edge or uneasy. That doesn't work well for the company, right? I don't think that would be a good match. So they have to go through all of the steps before they can get certified as an on-site reviewer. That's what we called it, when you can do on-site reviews, meaning that you can go out and gather facts, also do it in a difficult situation where the client may be there from a previous inspection. Maybe they're not happy, maybe their contractor's there, maybe the agent is there. So that wouldn't be a good match to excel someone and put them right up at the front and put them in that seat, so that they get that tier and they also get the pay associated with it. So they have to put in the time. They have to have this minimum number of inspections. But as I was walking through all of our tiers with this person that owns this company, and it's a tree trimming business, actually, it was fascinating to me how easily we coached another service business in a completely different industry on how to use this approach. Like I said, a tree trimming and removal company, one of their big struggles is they're growing fast, and they're growing faster than the company can manage. So they have really great laborers, really great workers. This guy has really figured out where to get really good labor. Where they're lacking is when they build these teams out. So when you build a team out, you have all the labor, but then you need someone to lead the team. So they're losing sight on laborers. We had the same exact issue. We have the absolute best inspectors in the business. The challenge was, once we built our teams out, we only had one person leading all of these teams. So we had to start getting actual team leaders on the inside of the team, because that one person was spread way too thin. So building out the team leaders, we kept pushing people up. We wanted them just, hey, go be a team leader. Well, no one really knew what it was, and no one really knew what the clear path was to get there. So once we started establishing tiers and a clear path to get there, then we had people that were actually working towards that job versus that job working towards the people. I hope that makes sense, because we were very much build it and they will come, but you have to approach it. I learned that in our organization, we have to approach it the other way. We have to give that path, give that clear path to people, and let them choose to earn that way in. So this tree trimming company, it was seamless how they could pick up what we had and implement it into their company easily, and they started promoting from within. Now they have a clear path. It took them a day to outline this whole program. Now they have a clear path to get crew leaders, so they can expand and have different crews at different job sites. That's really the only way that they can grow, and they did it just about overnight. So the challenge is getting folks. They had really good folks. Now they've given them a clear path, and they can start growing because they can expand their geographic reach on a daily basis with adding different teams. It was the same thing that we did. Theirs are called crews, ours are called teams, but tomato, tomato. So I hope that this has been really helpful for you. For anybody that wants a breakout of how we have our tiers set up, I can send that to you. You can email me at jeff@home-probe.com. You can click the link below there and make a comment and ask for the tier breakout. Put in their employee tiers, and I will be more than happy to send that to you. So any service business, this will work. It's very simple. It seems really complex, but once we finally started putting pen to paper, it was very easy to break it out. And really, it's a clear path of where you want your people to go, how you're going to help them get there. And the idea, if you think about it this way, the idea for me is I have to figure out how to replace myself. So if you go through the organization and work backwards from there, work from the top down, how do you take each component or each piece and how do you figure out how to replace that piece? You find them a path forward, and then you can backfill and replace that piece. And that's how the company grows. So I hope this has been helpful. I really love sharing this, and I can't wait to see you next time.